We all heard that slow and steady wins the race, but it's even better when you swing a hammer to back that up. Straight into the blunt end. Today, we are talking about one of the most methodical, tanky classes of Flesh and Blood. We are talking Hammer Time, a deep dive into the Guardian class. I'm Will.
I'm Evan.
I'm Ning.
I'm Trevor.
And you can see that it's just going to be the Will and Evan show today. But Evan, thankfully, is the Guardian Master. Right? So he's going to help us walk through this. But before we get to that, Evan, what did we learn since last week?
Man, I learned a whole lot of nothing because I was busy working.
Hmm.
I did learn how to Guardian Mastery Pack cards though. So
Yeah, you were saying you weren't very happy with some of the spoilers that came out, but stay tuned because we will be doing a spoiler set review. Right? Set
there
review?
there are
Yeah.
some fun cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely do a set review. There are some pretty fun cards that we'll talk about,
Yeah.
but they're all very bad into gravy bones.
Mm.
There's a big mill theme, and milling gravy bones just gives them extra cards. So
So
yeah,
it's not like when you try to pit all the Vinny cards, the RuneGate cards, or the Blood Deck cards into the Banish Zone, like if you were new, and kill me that way. So this is like not a very viable game plan when you mill Gravy Buns then, right?
oh, if Gravy Bones took damage for every watery grave card you
Yeah.
milled, that would be very cool.
Actually, wouldn't be a bad type of hero like coming out the next time. Anyways, I decided to go a little different because I figured there's still going to be a lot of gravies out there. I'm pretty happy with the way my gravy shaped up to be. Still went 2-1 with them. This week I took Fang out, retirement and just played around. I just wanted something a little bit different. So I went back to, the warrior fun. I figured there weren't going to be many fangs in our current armory, so I'm glad I did it. In fact, I was going to, play the first game and then drop if there was a uneven amount of people, so even out the buys if there was one. I thought there was, so I gave up the match, and then I went to go talk to Keenan to drop, and it's like there's no buys. I was like, oh, so I stuck around, took my win back, said, hey, sorry, sorry, I'm gonna have to keep on playing, and so I went 2-1, losing to a Puffin player. That Puffin player that keeps on team killing us.
Was it our
He
lubricate loving friend Trevor?
Lubricate loving friend Trevor. I mean, he's probably like just lubricating himself all up right now and all happy with Puffin, right? Uh,
Yeah, I heard the reason why Ning and Trevor aren't here is because they, went to the airport. They took a trip to Corsham to get lubed up. I'm happy for them.
and me too. Right? Let them. This is going to be this is going to be already out the gates. But a little background to the Guardian class. So, they're not really. Ever since I started playing, we've seen Victor come out, but notice that they really haven't been prevalent in the gameplay space, except Jarl came out and then but for a while it was just either Victor or Jarl, right? But Guardians understand are one of the original four classes from the Welcome to Wraith.
Yeah, so and this is something that kind of dawned upon me recently,
Hmm.
as the old man I am when it comes to Flesh and Blood. And I'm sure many people who've been playing for quite a long time are going to feel the same sentiment.
Hmm.
But Guardian has been around since day one. And since day one, Guardian has always been one of the strongest classes. Like, legitimately, for the first 3 or so years,
Hmm.
if you ask somebody what the strongest class is, like Guardian is up there. Like Guardian is so was so meta relevant and was like at so many points was like the top tier hero.
Hmm.
Like it was kind of insane. And so hearing newer players not know how powerful Guardian was in the past is
Hmm.
kind of a shocking thing, to be honest.
Huh.
But yeah, Guardian recently has fallen off a bit due to some of the changes in sort of game design philosophy that LSS has sort of employed,
Hmm.
but historically has been quite a powerful class. And even today, like they can do some powerful things.
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll talk about that throughout the cast, but again, like my experience with them has really been Victor Goldmain, and then as the more the aggressive Guardian, and Jarl as the more, you know, talent based guardian with either the earth, ice, depending on what you want to do. I know when I first started playing, Bravo was, around, but he wasn't ever really like once you figure out Bravo's shtick, he was very easy to play around, even though he had to dominate on a stick and these big beefy attacks. And at first, it really got me right when I would get crushed and I'd get my dreams crushed so much. But I was playing Rhinar at the time, and that's kind of a somewhat uneven matchup in its own ways too. So I guess a couple of the key concepts we mentioned it. I'll start with the first one, dominate. It's really this big attack that gets around blocks, and it really you can only. I think the dominate keyword. What's a good dominate card that could bring up and just show all these big?
Macho Grande is probably a
Uh,
good one. So dominate, it's kind of a evergreen keyword. Like
hmm
there are generic cards that have dominate,
And
but like Guardian is the class that gets the most dominate.
mhm,
Essentially, dominate is you can only block with one card from hand. You can still block with equipment. You can still block with defense reactions from your arsenal.
you're right,
Dominate's a very powerful keyword because just it's evasion, right? It's pushing damage through. If you're swinging for 10 with dominate, your opponent can on average block for 3 with one
hmm
card in hand, and that's it. It's also helpful if, your opponent had a game plan that involved blocking with more than one card in hand,
right.
and now you've just sort of stuck them in their tracks.
Well, and I know I really, I was going to say you can only really block, one card from hand, and but that's a lot different than its other variation of the same keyword, and it's a lesser loved dominate. It's called
Overpower. Yeah,
overpower.
overpower was what we call fixed dominate. Dominate's a very powerful ability, so they tried to fix it with overpower. Guardians get a bit of overpower as well, but
hmm
it's a lot less powerful. In essence, it's pretty similar, except you can only block with one action card, right? So you can still block with multiple cards from hand as long as you only block with one action, right? So if you have
Right.
defense reactions, attack reactions, those can all block just the same as before.
Like where dominate, like let's say Macho Grande, you have a block card in hand or a D-react in hand. It doesn't matter. It's only one card in hand. You can't use the block cards from Arsenal. New players don't do that. It all happens to us at least once. You can't play block cards from Arsenal, but you can't play D-reacts from Arsenal. Or like you said, you can use your equipment. Where it's so much different than, the overpower, where this could be defended by one action card from hand, but also if you have a block, D-react from hand, or Arsenal, you can use it to do that. So it's less restrictive, which is how LSS determined it was more fair. Is that pretty accurate?
I mean, both dominate and overpower are represented today. Like they,
Mm,
they they do keep printing cards with both abilities. Though, yeah, dominate is a lot more rare. Overpower is a lot more safe of a mechanic for them
mm.
to print cards with. So,
Well, and I guess we'll talk about the next keyword, crush.
yeah, Crush. I love Crush. In essence, it's an on-hit ability, but you need to hit for at least 4 damage for it to trigger, right?
Mm,
So this card Cranial Curse right here. Um if it hits for 3 damage, the effect does nothing, but if it hits for 4 more damage, then your opponent can't draw cards until during their next action phase, right?
yeah, and I
So,
like that most crush attacks are on these big attacks too. So I'm at least giving up one card plus equipment, one card or two cards, or it's you got to mitigate that force. It's really putting that thought process into the defensive player's head. Like, do I really want to block this up to prevent this on hit? Is it that relevant for my next turn? And sometimes you don't know with Guardians if they have something to bring it over the top. A little foreshadowing. I know we're going to get into that later, but yeah, tell me more about this crush.
yeah, Crush is it's essentially like a mechanic where it's like you can put powerful on hits on cards on these really, really big attacks, but they don't feel super oppressive. Well,
hmm
maybe Crippling Crush here feels oppressive, but
But it's
um
on it's on a Bravo specialization, so that's its
yeah,
limiter, right? Well,
yeah, that's
sorry,
fair.
Bravo
But
fans.
yeah, most crush cards are a lot it's a lot easier to block the on hit effect than something like, let's say, an assassin attack. Assassin
Mm,
attacks are really small, but if any amount of damage gets through, then some negative things happen.
Right.
For Guardians, they're way bigger, but there's a bit of leeway. You can take a bit of damage, so it's a nice balancing act, and it does allow for LSS to make some pretty powerful crush effects. Right, Spinal Crush here, for instance, stopping go again. That's kind of an insane ability.
And I know we were talking about this like naturally large attack. And it usually costs a lot of damage, and it's usually an issue when you have these high cost attacks. But sometimes this power comes into play when you are on the defense, and it's another keyword that I don't think we mentioned earlier, but something that I think might be more relevant for Guardians and other places because of these large attacks. We didn't talk about this, Evan, but what am I talking about here?
I really hope you're talking about one of my favorite mechanics, and a mechanic a lot of people dislike: clashing.
It is, in fact, Clash. In fact, I'm laughing because let me tell you, man, you got me with this Clash stuff with your Victor deck so many times.
Yes.
Pisses me off. Anyways, but yeah, Clash. I know it's not solely Guardians, but they use this so well, you know?
Yeah. It's once again, it's one of those like this card, for instance. It's a generic, anybody can run it, but
Hmm.
clashing essentially, you and your opponent both reveal the top card of your deck. The winner of the clash is the one with the higher powered card, right?
Hmm.
We just saw a bunch of crush cards that all have 8, 9, 10 power. Guardians are winning clashes pretty often,
Right.
so they get
And
a lot of beneficial effects off of these clash cards.
And I think the only one that didn't that could pose an issue against Guardians with their clash mechanic is a KO
Yeah.
back in the day. But you're not seeing a lot of KOs running out there, so it's time for Guardians to rise up and eat well. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Let me not get ahead of myself here.
I mean, if
Um,
if your opponent reveals a Humperdinck,
yeah, that's
you
true.
lose. So, no,
Yeah.
historically, Guardian is very good at clashing, and
Mm,
there are a lot of beneficial effects to it as well. So, yeah, a lot of Guardians like clashing, but not all of them do. Guardians also have a huge emphasis on auras. One of the new heroes
mm.
from the new set, Pleiades, she is very aura focused, for instance, and you can't have it both ways. If you play clash cards, your auras like make you lose clashes, so you
Mm.
can only really do one or the other.
I mean, I'm just going to. Sorry, that slipped real quick. Fit it back to Pleiades. I'm not sure that Ripple Way will ever become relevant, but it's going to be rising up in stocks if you're not. I don't know. Is it? Evan,
I,
just off topic,
I
right?
mean, it's pretty good. I need my playset, so
Yeah. So I know we were talking about key words, but this is also key concepts. And there's one that, I think I should mention here, but it's fatigue as a gameplay style. And that key concept would be the fatigue gameplay. Now, I'm by all means not a Guardian master. I'm Guardian curious, and I look forward to building a Jarl deck one day. But like, can you tell me what this entails?
yeah. So there are sort of two avenues for fatigue: the sort of hardcore I am trying to fatigue my opponent avenue. If your opponent is running, remembrance in their deck, as well as 9+D reactions, they're trying to fatigue you. Yeah, so
And remembrance is like a yellow, zero cost, generic instant. Shuffle up to 3 action cards from your graveyard into your deck. Banish remembrance. I play this as some of those other decks. I think I run this in my sideboard for Vinny since she tends to get fatigued a lot. So this is to sometimes be anti-fatigue, which if I remember right, you told me a story one time about, the Guardians always playing remembrances in their deck and trying to like do the remembrance, standoff. Anyways, I don't know. Was that you or was
yeah,
it okay?
I don't think that was me, but that is definitely something that would happen. Yes, because remembrance it's an anti-fatigue tool, but
Uh-huh.
ironically, that also makes it one of the best fatigue tools. So currently, fatigue guardians aren't very good. It's an archetype, the sort of passive fatigue
Mm,
of just swinging weapon and blocking out. It's an archetype that LSS is trying to move away from.
that's
But
sad.
back in the day, fatigue guardians were very fatigue Oldhim.
Mm.
It was a big deal. So
I remember you used to tell me about Ultimate. I know we're talking about all the different
Yeah.
heroes out there that we have back then. But yeah, you guys used to tell me the horror stories of Oldhim as the guardian elemental hero, the original one.
Yeah, we'll talk
Um,
about Oldhim a bit longer, but
all right.
or in a bit, but so that's one of the two fatigue strategies, right?
Mm-hmm.
The sort of like I am going into the game with the idea that I'm going to fatigue my opponent.
Mm.
The other strategy is incidental fatigue. Guardians sometimes will get to a state where they say, "Oh, I can't really close out this game. So I guess I'm just going to fatigue you or wait until I draw the way to actually like close out the game,"
Yeah.
which
We
like
actually
often enough is fatigue related.
Well, I think one things that we were all watching at this is our local armory. I forgot the guy's name. It's a Jarl player, relatively new. Devin, do you remember him? Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
I've
but
played
I
with him.
remember he was fighting Jose's Syndra, and it was like really grinding, getting down to the end, and you could see, and he's a relatively new player. I think this might have been his first win, but he looked at the game state and he was like, you know what? I can just fatigue her. And as soon as that switch came on, we all like was like, it stepped forward, and he was able to execute the game plan. But it was like kind of like midway through the game, you could see that he was switching from the killing strategy to the fatiguing strategy. So incidental fatigue,
Yeah.
as you put it. And it was like brilliant. I think we all clapped at the end when he got there, right? So,
No, that's awesome. Yeah, because it's like sometimes Guardians don't come in with a fatigue game plan,
mm,
but as you just sort of mentioned, like sometimes like midway through the game, you kind of swap over and say,
mm,
"Hey, I'm a Guardian. They're playing Syndra. My cards are higher value. I can fatigue
yeah,
in this gameplay if they're not putting enough pressure to get around it."
yeah. That would be a rush too, to just be able to close out the game like that. Or also like, if you're all just destroying someone's compass on Gravy Bones. I think our Yarl player does that too. And he likes it. All right, so we're
Loves it.
getting to the next section where we're talking about offense and defense. And on the offense side, it's the strength and weakness of the class, and then on the defense side, we're going to cover the strength and weakness as well. So, for instance, one of the offensive strengths of a guardian is big attacks with impactful negative on hits, and we saw this with the crush effects. But there's also just generally big attacks that have negative effects, and it's like your Command and Conquer is commonly ran in a Guardian deck. Do you have another one that might come to mind on this one?
I think the main two that I like to think about. Number one
Hmm.
is Spinal Crush. I think we've already seen that one,
Yeah,
but
you want to read it for those that are listening, just so they get that
yeah.
fear run up into their spine again. So I did that fear, anyways.
So Spinal Crush is a 5 cost, 9 damage, 3 block. And it has if Spinal Crush deals 4 more damage, this is a crush effect, to a hero. a- Action cards, activated abilities, and attacks they control lose and can't gain go again
Oof.
during their next action phase. So, any sort of go wide deck with any sort of go again,
Mm,
if you let Spinal Crush deal 4 more damage, you are no longer going wide anymore.
mm.
You get
A-
one attack. So
And
Spinal
I
Crush is a very powerful effect.
and I love how they have a ninja getting his back broken by this massive guardian. Just from
Ninja
the
does
flavor.
not like Spinal
Yeah.
Crush. It's
From a
very
flavor
fair.
perspective, it's very chef's kiss.
Yeah. But
Do you have
like
another one?
the other big one is, in my opinion, in the current meta anyways, I would
Sure.
say Crush the Weak.
Okay.
Yeah. So Crush the Weak is 3 cost, 7 power, 3 block.
Oh.
If it deals 4 more damage, once again a crush effect. To a hero, they can't play attack action cards with power 3 or less during their next action phase. So, also very good against Ninja,
Oh.
which just runs 0 for 3 go again. It's good against something like Assassin. All their stealth cards are 3 or less. And it's also good against like Gravy Bones, for
Mhm.
instance. Yeah, so
You stop a lot of his tipples, right? And
yeah.
sometimes his still waters, which he really needs to kind of generate those blue. That's
Tipples,
great.
swells, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the key point, like a big offensive strength that Guardian has is these sort of like on hit effects, right?
Hmm.
Because these two are massive. Like if your opponent is playing uh some of the top decks ever, because both the cards I mentioned, they're very strong against Assassin, Ninja, and Necromancer, which are the literal three top classes in the game right
Hmm.
now. they are forced to block both of these cards, or their turn is not going to be very good.
Yeah, and it's a huge thing. So they're at least giving you one, at least one card. And I know we didn't mention it yet. So like as far as other, like oh man, if I just use one card, I could block this out. Fantastic. But we know with Guardians that's not necessarily the case. And I'm again foreshadowing to a key card that most Guardians use. Teasing you right now because we're gonna hold that off. I know Evan hates when I jump ahead, but I get so excited about this card. Anyways,
I think most viewers who have watched the show long enough and have heard, you know, every week we say, "What have you learned last week?" And then and Will says, "Oh, I've learned the card we're referring to is not good in a deck that isn't Guardian."
It's called Blink Q, right? And we'll get to that. All right, enough teasing. I can't wait until we get
Yeah,
to that point.
it's true.
But there's also another thing that we talked about too, and that was really with the weapons Guardians have. Like, you want to cover a few of the good ones. I know the classic one is, of course, Anathos.
Yeah, Anathos in the very first set. Yeah, their Guardians have a number of very powerful weapons. We talked about fatigue. The only reason fatigue is on the table at all is
Hmm.
because of how powerful Guardians' weapons are, right? Like, uh, being able to block with 3 cards and then pitch this and swing for 4, like that's very, very powerful.
Hmm.
And if you have another way to pitch a second card, you can make this swing for 6. So, um, for those of you who don't like quite understand sort of like the idea of fatigue, it might sound bad to spend 1 card for 4 or 2 cards for 6,
Hmm.
but these cards are being pitched, right? You're not actually spending them. They're going back into your deck.
Yeah.
So that's how fatigue works. Is you swing Anathos for 6, your opponent to take no damage is required to block with 2 cards from hand,
Hmm.
and you just expended 0 cards, right? So that
Mm.
is a huge reason for Guardian Strength. They have the weapons with the highest power levels. Just like power as in like the physical number on the weapons. So Anathos is big. The 2 other weapons that often see play are Titan's Fist.
Yeah.
Yeah, this may look a lot worse than Anathos, but it is one-handed, so you can actually
Yes.
hold a shield. So the shield, of course, would be something like a steel braid buckler, just some sort of like 2-block temper. So against like more aggressive decks, you have a bit more armor to work with, and you can still swing the 1 card 4 with the
Yeah.
Titan's Fist.
And don't
And
sneeze at
then
the two block temper here. That's really 3 points of value on one card while you're
yeah, no,
still, being there face in with a hammer. And it's very, very doable. Like I know you said it's a one card three, but really with most Guardians, their blue
yeah, one
cards
card
are
4
yeah,
often, yeah.
it's a blue card pitch that's at least 5 power attack, which is why Titan's Fist works so well.
No, I agree with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Titan's Fist is a very, very powerful weapon, and currently the one-handed weapon of choice for Guardians. The final weapon that sees play is the Sledge of
Mm,
Anvilheim. So this is kind of similar to Anathos. It's a two-handed weapon, except this one just baseline 6 power, although it costs 4 resources.
mhm,
Um, this is for more controlling matchups, more fatigue oriented decks. The idea here is if you run the Fiendal Spring Tunic, you can pay a blue and use the tunic to swing a 1 card 6 every 3 turns,
mhm.
which is kind of an insane thing to do.
And don't forget, I know we haven't talked about the Guardian Mastery Pack coming up. There's a lot of seismic surge tokens in there, and I feel like we should have probably mentioned that in one of those key concepts about the seismic surge. I don't know. Does that fit there, or should we keep that for later?
We can talk about it when we talk about Valda for
Okay,
the because
that's fair.
seismic surges they are kind of a key concept for Guardian, but
Mhm.
mainly for Valda.
Yeah. And I know, like, we're covering the three big hammers, no pun intended. You can have so much fun with puns with these guys. Uh, but, and I know every hero especially Guardian Hero, will have their own specialized weapon, like Summit the Unforgiving. We did forget about Summit. Generally, I don't see this being played a lot. It's kind of a little too costly for the Guardians game plan, which is, you know, block defensively, have one card, use the one card to swing hammer. And this doesn't really work with that, but I do like Summit personally. I don't think it's seeing a lot of play because it's just that you really need those cards to either block or use for a lot bigger purpose than two card four most often, unless you give up the shield.
Yeah.
But the relevant on him, this frostbite in every exposed zone is really good too, though. That calls to me, Evan. Um, and
Summit's a cool card. Unfortunately, I don't think it's a very good card.
yeah.
Trust me, I've tried it as well. Oh,
And
and
then what
then
do you
Miller time. Oh my god, my great love.
yeah, but it's also like so. I got Miller's Grindstone up here. It's really. I mean, I know it came out with Victor and is attached to Victor Goldmain, but it seems like such a fun card where it's pitch a card, attack. It's a one-handed hammer. When this hits a hero, clash with them. We talked about how all these guardians have so many good clash mechanics. If you win, destroy the top card of the deck. Doesn't that go toward the fatigue plan of a guardian? And but then it's the second line that I didn't read. If you just left it at that, it would have been fantastic. But if they win, put a -1 counter on this. Is this
Yeah.
so bad when they win that you never want to play this? I know it's a one card three at that time, but
Well, so Miller's has seen play in the past. I personally have played Miller's,
okay.
though it's not a fatigue card. And the reason being is because if you're trying to fatigue your opponent, you need cards like Sink Below, Fate
Mm.
Foreseen, you need all the 4 block D reacts. Those lose clashes, right?
So it
So you're not
doesn't
allowed
work.
to, yeah, you're not allowed to clash and also play fatigue.
Mm.
So what Miller's is good at is it's good at like actually milling important cards. So if you were ever in a matchup where it's important for your opponent to not have certain cards in their deck, Miller's you can use Millers to try to like get them out of their deck, right? So for instance, against something like Enigma, you can get rid of like their big ores. If you get rid of Mirage with Millers, that's pretty good.
Mm.
Against something like Kano, you can like ruin their pitch stack. So it's not good, but it has its place in like clash based decks. And by
Okay.
clash based decks, I mean Victor.
Yeah. All right.
Right
So
now it's bad though, because once again, Gravy Bones says, "Oh, thank you for the ally."
yeah. So it goes back to I know we went kind of on a tangent here because they have so many flavorful and awesome weapons, but like and we were talking about like the most powerful damaging weapons in the game really leads to the game plan focus. And I never really connected how Miller's doesn't fit with the VT game plan because you need the sink blows and other defensive reactions or block mechanics. So I never really made that connection. So that's something I learned right now. What's a couple of other offensive strengths?
Yeah, I think the big one is just how big their attacks are.
Mm,
Um, because we talked about Brute, how Brute gets all these massive attacks.
right.
Guardian gets Pulverize. Yeah, Pulverize is literally the biggest attack in the
Mm.
game.
That's a beefy card. I'm gonna read this. It's a red card. It's cost 10. It's 14 power, 3 block. It has a key mechanic right here called the heave, right? And at the beginning of your end phase, if pulverize is in your hand, and you have an empty arsenal zone, you may pay 3. Pulverize face up into your arsenal. If you do, create 3 seismic surge tokens. When pulverize hits a hero, the first attack during the next turn has -4. That seems pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the highlight because this is literally just the biggest card in the game, like the
Hmm.
biggest attack action in the game. Uh, and yeah, Guardian gets a lot of really, really massive attacks. Like, for instance, we talked about those crush cards, like Spinal Crush. If your opponent does something like, let's say, blocks for 6 against Spinal Crush, you'll take 3 damage, so the crush effect won't occur. But they're still taking 3 damage and blocking with 2 cards, right?
Mm.
Like these attack actions that Guardian have are just really big and like very daunting.
And is that what you meant? I know when we were talking about this cards and these cards earlier, you said it was evasive damage, and I really didn't understand what that meant. But is that kind of what you're
That
talking
is
about?
not actually what I meant, to be
Oh, okay,
honest.
okay,
When I said evasive damage, I meant dominate, overpower,
okay, okay.
and
So this
honestly,
isn't a
that's
variation
another
of this.
strength. Yes,
Okay.
because like guardians and sort of alluding to maybe one of their weaknesses,
Hmm.
sort of they have issues with closing out games, but to compensate for that, they get a lot of ways to stop your opponent from blocking out your attacks, right? So abilities like dominate, abilities like overpower,
Mm,
these are abilities that are very hard to come by for other classes. Guardian gets quite a lot of them,
mm.
and if your opponent's at 5 and you swing Macho Grande for 10, they're probably dead.
Yeah, I got you. That's what you meant by evasive damage. That makes sense. It's not where you try to block out the cards and you still take a little bit of damage over the top. Okay. So now we're back on the same page. I know a lot of their other offensive strengths could be their powerful blue cards. We mentioned this before because Guardians need to pitch a lot of blue, right? So a lot of their, like even their Macho Grande blue version, since we've been talking about this, it's still 8 power versus the Red's 10 power. I mean, honestly, do Guardians even play the red or do they just play the straight blue since there's so many other great red crushed on hit effect cards like
Yeah.
but I would just run all the blues if they're all like Macho Grande blue version with 8 power and 3 block.
And you are right about that, Will. They don't run the Reds. Historically, the Reds have seen play in sort
Right.
of the fatigue metas,
Hmm.
just as sort of fatigue breakers. But current meta isn't very good for fatigue, and Macho Grande is sort of the blue one anyway, is sort of the key card. So you sort of pitch stack it, and then once your opponent is low on life, uh, the moment you draw Macho Grande, you just kind of win the game,
Mm.
right? So yeah,
What's another?
that's a I mean, they get a lot of like big blues. I think this
Mm,
is the only like big one with dominate that most of them gets. But like spinal crush or not spinal crush, crip or cranial crush. Yes,
okay.
cards like cranial crush, cards like thunderquake, blue. Like a lot of other classes, if they draw an all blue hand, they swing for maybe like 2, 3 damage.
Hmm.
you know, and that's really terrible. Guardian, if you draw an all blue hand, you're swinging for 8,
Right.
which is like not ideal. You would want like a one red card, but I'll take it.
Yeah, yeah. I
An
mean,
all
you're
blue
not
hand and still
unhappy.
getting 8 damage. Yeah, I'm not against that.
I mean, I guess the only time Guardians don't really want to see these kind of cards if they're all red cards or red. So it seems like you really want more blues because you really need
Yeah,
them
Guardians
to.
are very blue heavy. I think like
Yes.
Guardians run over half their deck is blue. So
And
compared to other decks, like I play Syndra on occasion. I'm like, do I run 3 blues or 0 blues?
dang,
Guardian is not like that.
you know what though? If a lot of new players are coming in since Misspell, they would not gravitate toward the Guardian cards because new was really a gatekeeper for any Guardians coming out because they really are so reliant on their blue card counts. Why would you want to play Guardian if new's so prevalent and if it's I feel like an automatic loss against a new? Is that
It's
right?
not.
It's just got
I've
to be difficult.
beaten news before. You gotta
Okay.
get pretty lucky though.
I,
But yes, so I'm glad that new is gone, so we can talk about big blue attacks again.
yeah, right,
But
right. So
yeah, that's new gave Guardian problems because
I
new could
got you.
play these 6 for 8s as a 0 for 8 with go
Yeah,
again
so good.
into another 0 for 8 go again. So
Yeah. So, okay, I guess that was a lot of the offensive strengths. We can move on to the offensive weaknesses if you want. Um, should you
what's
cover
the
the
first
first
thing on the
one?
list? Yeah.
Well, I'll bring it up then. Of course, Guardians don't have lubricate. Sorry, Trevor.
Oh, that's
I guess
so
Ning now,
that
since they're both
sucks.
lubricating each other up. Is that what you were saying earlier?
Yeah, and
Or
Corsham.
yeah, they course them. There you go. But yeah, another one is, and now this is what I noticed, doesn't have any go again attack actions. Certainly not a single one. I mean, isn't there like at least zealous belting?
Yeah, there are a couple generics
Hmm.
that they have.
Oh, it's a generic, not guardian. I
Yeah,
see.
it's let's be real. This is a Guardian card, but yeah, we'll talk about like some of the important go again cards
Mm,
because they do technically have them. They're all generic though.
gotcha.
When it comes to actual Guardian cards, like
Mm,
they don't have any go again attacks. They have a couple buff cards. They have a couple aura cards that can set
mm,
up buffs later. But if you're doing something like, let's say, trying to go face at your opponent, deal like a bit of damage, and then kill a Spectra aura, for instance,
mm,
a class like Ninja, swings for, you know, 6, 7 damage with go again at your opponent's face, and then Kadachi's to kill
mm,
a Spectra aura. Guardian does not have that luxury. The same can be said about Gravy Bones, for instance.
yeah.
You do not have like the go again attacks to kill Gravy Bones allies. So you're often enough being very inefficient at killing allies if you have to. And you have to because another issue with Guardian is, and we sort of touched upon it, they are not great at closing out games, right? Like cards like Macho Grande Blue, like big dominate attacks, those will close out games for sure.
Hmm.
But like, yeah, this card, for instance, requires a lot of setup. It
Hmm.
requires like your full hand essentially to swing for 8, and so it's not great at sort of killing your opponent. So any sort of deck that has setup, once again, ally based and aura based classes, um even like combo decks, Guardians have had some pretty major issues against like wizards, for instance, like any sort of combo deck that sort of sets up like a massive combo. uh the solution to beat a combo deck is to just kill your opponent before the combo goes off.
Mm.
Guardians
You
have trouble doing that.
know, I was like, was that very often? I mean, like, I know when I first started, it was right before, like, it was during the heavy hitters, and like, I think Kano was still out there running around. I didn't see a lot of Bravos,
Yeah.
but like when I did play a couple Bravos, it would seem that the Kano was a lot faster at closing out the game than Bravo was at closing out the game because you're really only swinging once per turn, and the Kanos still have a lot of defensive tech against certain cards,
Yeah.
anyways. Like, so I could see if you just go full defense until you get your combo off, then I can see how that's very, very much a struggle for Guardians to close out the games.
Yeah, I think the way I would describe it is on offenses, Guardians are very good against fair classes. Like any sort of like um if your opponent's trying to play regular flesh and blood, the I'm just trying to get the most value out of my cards and
Mm,
deal decent damage to my opponent. Chances are Guardian's going to be pretty good into that. If your opponent's trying to do some unfair thing on some separate axis, something like illusionist, necromancer, wizard, just some
mm.
sort of weird thing like side game essentially. Guardians have trouble dealing with that because often the solution is just kill them quickly before they can do the side thing well.
I got you. I can see how that. So I guess in trouble finishing off games, you know, pushing damage through. Like I know you said there was a lot of evasive damage, dominate and overpower, but and then I was like, if Kano just goes full defensive tech, they have trouble with that because they can still use Arsenal, even a good equipment suite, I guess, for at least one turn or two. And we know since the beginning of WTR, well, I'll just say, like, from my experience, since the beginning of heavy hitters, the equipment suite in this game has just gotten better and better and better every expansion. And some of the cards that are coming out now are so much better than what heavy hitters era ever provided. Right? Does that make sense? Like you got
Yeah.
quick dodge flexors now, which is a great staple for a lot of these. I know we're going to talk about Guardian cards later, but versus what they used to use, which was civic steps. I can't remember, but we could talk about
They
that
still
too.
sometimes run civic steps, but
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of the default like piece. But yeah, the Guardian or equipment has gotten better across the board, which
Hmm.
makes Guardian a bit weaker because it makes Dominate a bit worse. But
So they have trouble pushing damage through, but you were
yeah,
mentioning something about having trouble pressuring the opponent as well. Do you want to expand on that because I wasn't really sure. Like I was like, oh, say that for the podcast because I want you to explain it to me as well as to our guest.
Yeah, and this is mostly just sort of off kilter stuff, but a lot of their attack actions are really big.
Mhm.
So like a card like Spinal Crush, that's quite the on hit. Spinal Crush costs 5, so you need to keep at least 3 cards in hand in order to play it.
Two
That's
plus the Spinal
asking a
Crush.
lot,
Yeah.
right? So even like Macho Grande, right? That card, as I mentioned, like it helps you close out games,
Hmm.
but it requires, 7 pitch. So it's very difficult to keep enough to pitch for it and
Hmm.
not die in the late game, right? Because, in the late game when Macho Grande would kill your opponent is when they're at like, 1 to 5 life. Um, and if your opponent's at 1 to 5 life, what life total are you at?
Right, right. Especially since if in order to swing your big attacks, you have to take damage, it sounds like, because you really need to hold cards back in order to play these massive damage cards, right, with relevant on hits, at least even with the crush like damage. Uh
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like you still need to take a lot to the face and you're not swinging back like a lot of damage to yourself. Like I know one of the things that we look at when we talk about like the equivalent exchange, no full metal alchemist here, I'm just saying, like if you take damage from your opponent and let's say they deal 15 damage to you, then what you should swing back is 15 damage at minimum or 15 points of value somewhere. But it doesn't seem like Guardians really get that because we don't have the go again factor. We just have, 3 cards for 9, which is really kind of, on par with the value, but it's not 3 cards for 15 or 4 cards for 18 like some of the Syndra decks that get into with drawing and relevant go agains and all that stuff. Is that a pretty fair assessment?
Yeah. So, like, Guardians are a defensive deck.
Mm-hmm.
So, if your opponent's putting pressure on you, it's very tough for them to take back tempo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without like sacrificing a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it is correct to sacrifice a bit of life, play your Spinal Crush. Now you have full tempo for the
Mm-hmm.
next couple of turns. But sometimes it's sort of not enough. And more importantly, we mentioned sort of Spinal Crush, we mentioned Crush the Weak. These two cards are very good against classes like Ninja. But if you're playing against something like a Verdant sees Spinal Crush. She doesn't care. So there are certain axes, certain classes where sort of you look at your on hits, you look at your opponent and you say, "Oh, this does nothing. This is just
Mm-hmm.
damage." And when that happens, yeah, Guardian has trouble because your attacks, they're just damage and it's not that much damage, right?
So I guess it's also like an offensive weakness is predictability on some of these attacks too, right? Sounds like what you're saying to me is to apply like you have the crush effect, sure, but there is a little bit of level of predictability with what they got. Like they're holding cards back to swing, kind of like a 9 power attack, right?
I mean, if they're holding cards back, they must have some very powerful effect. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe some attack reactions. Now
I,
might be a
lo-
good time to bring it up.
I love you, Evan. That's awesome. All right, we'll talk about it, guys. We're going to talk about the elephant in the room, the big ol' pummel. And in Guardians,
Oh
it's not
yeah.
pummel cute. All right, I'm popping my peas on purpose, by the way. It's not pummel cute. It is pummel playable. All right, in fact, because I got pummeled so much by Guardians, I really think about this card a lot when when I'm playing cards. I don't know if it was like a feel bad moment when I first started with Reinar, but man, and I remember playing against you, Evan, and punting the game away because you had the freaking 3 force counters on the Tunic, right? And you had one floating, and I had you dead to right. And I could have blocked out the attack, but you know what I did? I was like, oh, you don't have the pummel. I just
It's a it's a rite of passage, Will.
yeah, dude.
For those of you who don't know, because Guardian is not like as popular as it has been in the past,
Mm,
but the classic CNC off a
mm-hmm,
blue card. You have one floating, your tunic is up, one card in hand.
mm-hmm.
Um, that is one of the most nerve-wracking things you can see your opponent do. Um, because CNC into pummel off a 3-card hand is insanely broken.
Yeah.
And what's really funny is any class technically can do this because
Mhm.
Command and Conquer is a generic, Pummel is a generic.
Yes.
The issue is Pummel is really bad. Oh,
We have a guest visitor.
Pummel is really bad for a lot of these other decks, like in other scenarios, right? Like if you're
Yeah.
not lining up your Pummel with CNC, Pummel is often enough just a dead card. With Guardian, all your attack actions, they also work on Pummel,
Hmm.
and most of them that have crush effects, Pummel can get you that +4, so you're turning on the crush effect if your opponent blocked out the crush
Hmm.
effect, right? And you're getting the discard.
And
Not to
even if your
mention
opponent like tries to play for the crush effect, and they're like, "Oh, I got the D-react in Arsenal," because this has happened so many times, where you're taking the risk of them not playing the pommel to go over that D-react, you know. So they're still like, "Do I give them 2 cards?" Because right now the damage is right there at that cusp.
yeah.
And like, no, I'm gonna take that risk. I got the D-react, and the pommel is like, "Oh, well, now I'm screwed either way,"
Well,
you
there's
know.
also the sneaky thing that Pummels work on hammers. Hammer time, baby.
Hmm.
And this is a big deal for instance, Anathos. So often enough, you'll see somebody swinging Anathos for 4 by
Hmm.
pitching a blue card. You'll say, "Oh, it's only 4 damage." Then they pitch another blue card. Both cost 3 or more. So Anathos will get the +2 power, and
Hmm.
Pummel will give an extra +4 power. So
Wow.
you just went from taking 4 damage to 10 damage,
Mm.
like all in one swing. So
But man, and I'll tell you now, when you look at Anathos for 4, and you're like, oh, it's just vanilla damage, no relevant on hits. Well, life is a resource, and you just took 25% of your life total off with one weapon attack.
yeah,
And guys, I know every person knows about Pommel, but it is so good, right? And I got pummeled
in
so much
Guardian,
that
yeah.
thank you, Evan. In Guardian, yes, in Guardian, it's good.
Yeah, so like Pummel is also technically evasion, attack reactions. Guardians don't have any actual class attack reactions,
Mm,
but Pummel basically is a Guardian attack reaction.
yeah. Man, and LSS, if you ever want us to spoil a card, give us a Guardian reaction to attack reaction to that's not lending press, by the way. Just throwing that out there. All right, shall we move on to the defensive strength and weaknesses?
Yeah, I mean, let's do it.
I
So
mean,
strengths, it's very basic. It's a Guardian.
yeah,
I
the,
feel
their main shtick is defense, but you know they utilize all the defensive reactions really well. I think we could just check that off right from
yeah.
the get go. What's a couple of the other defensive strengths?
I mean, the big one is their armor, right?
Mm.
I think, and this is another reason why Guardian might have fallen off a bit here and there, but back in the day, Guardian had by far the best armor suite in the game.
As far as the fridge goes,
Um,
like total numbers, like what was your head slot? I couldn't remember.
well, they just run generic. Yeah. Like currently they technically still have the highest defense value in the game, but I
Mm.
would argue other classes like Brute and Runeblade probably have more powerful effects. But
Yeah,
if you're just looking for raw block value, nothing beats Guardian, right?
I
And a
would
big part of
say
that is because of your shield, right?
that's
So
right.
yeah, most other decks they have just as good of armor suite as Guardian, but they're required to run two-hand weapons. Guardians are able to run a one-handed weapon and an extra 3 block
Hmm.
in their one-handed shield. So this is what gives them the edge sort of in equipment over other classes.
And I guess that's also why they could afford to run the tunic because they have that shield to kind of cover up that those points of value you would lose from running a other kind of like a chess piece for Guardians. And I don't think no one really runs Tectonic plating anymore, unless I correct me if I'm wrong here, but like battle worn blocks for 2, create a seismic search. This might see more play going forward, but why
Yeah,
wouldn't you run
Tunic is
this one?
really good in Guardian. I mean, we talked about the CNC pummel line.
Right.
Guardians also have a lot of really powerful 4 cost attacks. As I sort of mentioned, Sledge, the weapon is one of them. but others like chokeslam, for instance, like debilitate. So the extra tunic counter does quite a lot for Guardian. So because of that, the tectonic plate has kind of fallen by the wayside,
Hmm.
though historically it's been a very powerful card and very important for some of the old Anathos based like fatigue strategies. So
Yeah. And it might come back later. It's hard to say with this card, the prediction on it.
I mean, with
The
Valda, maybe.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm going at. And they might reprint a variation of this because it's a WTR legendary. So it'd be nice if they updated the image for it, right? And that's kind of what they do sometimes. But the difference between Teutonic plating and tunic is you can have your force counters ticked up to 3 counters on the tunic and hold it for those plays. Where with Teutonic plating, it's very much like the Grains of Blood Spell for Warriors. And the aura is only good. The Seismic Surge aura token is only good for the next turn, right? It'll generate that resource.
Yeah, maybe now's a good time
Yeah.
to look at the seismic surge.
I realized that when I was talking, I was like, "Man, should I stop this for Valda?" But now we're in it. Let's hammer down and get this done, right? So,
Hammer time.
Seismic Surge is a Guardian token aura that at the beginning of your action phase, destroy this. Then the next Guardian attack action card you play this turn costs 1 less to play. All right. And how's that different from Vigor? Very similar.
The vigor is definitely a better effect because vigor just straight up gives you a resource that you can use on anything. Um, the seismic surge it only works on guardian attack actions, so you
Mm.
can't use it on your weapon, for instance. You can't use it on non-attack actions. You can't even use it on like your tectonic plate to make a new one. Um,
So a
though,
lot more limited. That's why the tonic plating,
yeah,
even though it has a higher block value, it's a little bit more restrictive in the actual abilities that you use it for. Where the tunic is generally a resource that you could take up, keep at, and then have, be able to use it for whenever. I get the
yeah,
difference there. I was always curious why people would pick tunic over Teutonic, but I think that kind of explained it really well.
yeah. Tunic has just so many powerful uses for guardian.
Hmm.
Um, Guardian wants the long game. Guardian games go a bit longer than other classes, so Tunic being able to get more resources just because the game goes on for longer definitely makes it more valuable in the long run.
I have to say, and Paul, if you're listening, this might be your next class to pick up. You have a habit of doing it, man. Right? So, you know, anyways, this personal shout out to a local out there. But all right, so what's some other defensive strengths that they have?
Yeah, I mean, so they have a massive armor suite, but they
Mm,
are also a class that blocks very well. Most of their cards are 3 blocks.
mm.
Uh, they've got a couple 4 block cards, which is pretty nice. And if you want to block extremely big attacks, they've got a lot of powerful defense reactions that can go very, very tall. The big one, of course, being Staunch Response, which can block
Uh-huh.
to, I believe, up to 10.
Yes. All right,
Yeah, so
that's
yeah, this one is very, very powerful. 2 for 7 block, kind of insane.
yeah.
And I mean, more than that, another piece of equipment that might be helpful to look at is the Rampart of the Ram's Head. Yup. So this is the other shield we saw blocks for 2, blocks for 1, and then goes away, so it just blocks for 3. This one blocks for 1, but you need to pay into it. So this gets way more powerful with cards like that Staunch Response, right? That costs 2, this costs 1. So you get to pitch into both of them.
Mm,
You can play cards like Oasis Respite and use the leftover resources for this as well. You can even use it with like tunic triggers, right? So
wow. And can you explain Rampart of the Ram said? I know it says it's a 0 block, but when you
yeah.
defend with it, you may pay a resource. If you do, it gains +1 defense to end the turn. So at the end of the turn, the chain link will close. This is still active since, and the does that -1 counter on this? Does it just fall
Oh,
off
it,
and you
it does
can?
not. There are no counters. It
Okay.
never gets -1 counters.
Oh, so you can just keep on blocking with this all the time as long as you pay 1 resource.
Yep.
Oh
As a
man,
matter of fact, there are crazy things you can do. If your opponent breaks the chain,
you could do it
um,
again. Oh,
yeah,
dude.
so and it'll block for 2. because it keeps the one block for the entire turn.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wha- Oh man, that's good, dude. I never even
Yeah.
realized that's how this plays.
Yeah, so back in the day, this was kind of a weird card. It was kind of a
Mm-hmm.
skill intensive card because there were a bunch of classes that really liked breaking the chain.
Mm-hmm.
So figuring out if your opponent was going to break the chain and if you could use Rampart for sort of full value was kind of a big deal. Um,
Dude, this is
yeah,
good against Gravy Bones in some ways too. I know you said it's a bad matchup, but they're sometimes forced to break the chain just to hit that blue card into their graveyard so they can start doing the water grave thing, right? I'm just saying, like, if they do a tipple or well, anyways, theory talking now,
that could
but
work.
yeah, I'm saying it's not nothing, right? It go up to a two block, and why wouldn't you let that if it never breaks?
Yeah, so this was a very powerful card to get over
Wow.
breakpoints in use with like other defensive cards that cost
Mm-hmm.
resources. It's also like incredibly good into like rune blades because you can pitch 2 resources to block rune chance,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you have any random thing floating, just pitch it for the ram's head.
Dang, never even realized that. So a lot of good blocking equipment.
Yeah, so
Or, if you don't mind me adding my little spice, maybe pitch a blue to use the ramparts, and then you can even, if you really need to live, use the rest of that resource or yellow even to pick some quick dodge flexors on the as a reaction. You know?
you could. That sounds pretty good. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're talking about equipment again, but
Yeah. Yeah.
overall, Guardians they block very well,
Okay.
right? They got a lot of 4 blocks. They got a lot of really tall defense reactions, a lot of 3 blocks. Yeah, they are incredibly good at blocking in deck and on board. So major strengths there.
So what's a few other defensive weaknesses? Now, it was hard for me to come up with this, and I guess it's because usually some of the weaknesses I pick for the other classes are pain points I've experienced, and I haven't had a lot of play experience with really Guardians, and that's kind of why I'm taking more of an inquisitive role here. Like I have experience playing against them, but not playing, as them, right? So what's a few other
Yeah,
defensive weaknesses for all the new players out there, all the players like struggling with Guardians now that if they're running their muck in their meta, what are some of the defensive weaknesses that we could
good question.
do?
There aren't
uh,
very many, to be honest.
okay.
I think once again, I sort of mentioned like, and it's sort of a flavorful thing, you know. They've got quite a few offensive weaknesses.
Mm,
So yeah, often enough, that's sort of where they have issues with. On the defensive side, I mean, of course, like they're not like completely invulnerable, you know.
right.
If you can chip away at their armor, you know, force them to block with their armor, you know, they got 3 blocks. Uh, One defensive weakness could be they are required to run a lot of generic cards, right?
Mm.
We sort of mentioned that on offense, they run cards like Zealous Belting, they run cards like Pummel. These cards do not block well.
So
So,
when they pit these generic cards in their deck, they're actually kind of weakening their defensive structure of the Guardian
yeah,
class, but by having a little bit more utility in that Guardian class, is that kind of what I'm hearing here?
it's kind of you know, they're so bad at offense. They like offensive like raw aggro, right?
Mm-hmm.
That there are some good aggro cards that they're allowed to run that are
Mm-hmm.
generic, so they just run them. But all those cards block for 2, so
Yeah,
that is a bit of a problem. But outside of that, no. In on the physical defensive side, there really isn't much there.
that's fair. Okay.
They do have some issues with arcane damage.
Mm.
Um,
What AP do they run then? I didn't notice any of their like regular equipment having AP. Do they have anything
yeah,
like the other classes do where they I can't remember even all the stuff, but
they have
that
a
has
bit of arcane damage prevention equipment. None of it is any good, so they just run general generic arcane barrier equipment.
okay, is that like your null
Sometimes
rune?
yeah, null rune boots often enough, sometimes gloves, sometimes hat, sometimes even arcane lantern. So they can pretty easily get up to arcane barrier 3, but even still that's requiring a lot of generics and a lot of cards from their sideboard slots.
Yeah, and I
And
guess if they're fighting against an Astilio, I mean, that's
yeah, you're
I
giving up
know,
a lot of your armor if you're
yeah.
doing that. So I know historically Guardians into Icelander was always weird because you were required to bring in Arcane Barrier 3, which
Mm,
made your physical defenses way weaker. And Icelander actually ran a lot of physical attacks.
right.
So their physical attacks were a lot more powerful given Guardian's lack of armor into those matchups.
Okay. Kind of. So it sounds like it's kind of similar to the Astilio matchup of today, in this way, where it's
Yeah.
like those hybrid arcane casters. It seems like you would struggle a little bit between because you have to give up your high defense for some protection. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, I know we talked a lot about the key cards, so no need to really like, recover them. We talked about the pummel, we talked about all the crushed cards, and there's so many out there. February is a great resource for this. I know we didn't bring up CNC yet, but the CNC Command and Conquer pummel play is really cute. No D reacts can be played. We all know what this is, but pair it up with the pummel, and you got a really good twofer right here.
Yep.
So,
I think the one card probably that we haven't mentioned so far that I would like to bring up
sure.
is Rouse the Ancients.
Mm, that's always
Yeah,
a,
so
but
I
it's only zero
mentioned
power.
it wins clashes, technically, but Rouse the Ancients, it's a 3 cost blue,
Hmm.
0 power, 2 block generic. And as an additional cost to play it, you can reveal cards in hand with power 13 or more total. And if you do, it gets +7 power and go again.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a
So,
3 for 7 go again, but it's extremely conditional. Luckily, Guardian is one of the few classes that has those high powered attacks to get this working.
mm.
Um, and this sort of goes along with what I was saying of Guardian does not have good go again attacks. They literally have none. So you run cards like Zealous Belting and Rouse the Ancients to go wide. And yeah, so Rouse is a very good card. But once again, it's a 2 block. So you're kind of losing out on some of your defense.
As an aside, and I hate to interrupt this podcast, but this would be a card that might see some play in Reinar. I'm just saying, like filling out his blue counts is always kind of tough, and I gotta say, I kind of like it better than Nasty Surprise right now. As funny as it is, it
Um,
might work. You need the blues. Anyways, that's an aside. I'll just throw that out there. We could discuss
yeah.
it later.
Like I think every Reinar player who looked at this said, "Why does it get +7 power? Why isn't it a base 7 power?"
Yeah, that goes to zero if unless you reveal, right?
Something like that. Yeah,
Yeah. All right.
they knew
So
what they were doing.
they do. LSS is pretty good about this stuff. Ross the Ancients, totally forgot about this card. Glad you mentioned it. So pretty much, if it seems like it's really, really designed for Guardians, really, even though it doesn't have the Guardian word here, even though it's a generic action. And I see what you mean. It's a generic action. It's 2 block, but it really does play toward a Guardian's weakness, which is giving it go again. And actually the text fulfills that Guardians have a lot of 2 cards and you got 13 power total from your hand. So I can see this being pretty good to play. One of those things though is like let's talk about the different heroes now. The OG Bravo, right? And I know there's so many Bravos variations of Bravo that existed. I think we have
That's
3 variations now.
yeah.
But the OG Bravo Showstopper, this is your welcome to Wraith Hero action, 2 resources until end of turn. Your attack action cards with cost 3 or greater gain dominate on a stick. Seems pretty good. Go again, and that's go again because of the action requirement. It doesn't give text go again. It seems like a pretty strong card, man.
Yeah, it's okay. I think maybe looking at some of his specializations is sort of in order because
Okay,
yeah,
let's say Crippling Crush.
yeah, Crippling Crush is his big
Mm-hmm.
specialization. 7 cost, 11 power, 3 block. If it crushes, so 4 more damage, then your opponent discards 2 random cards.
Yeah, so this is a 9, right? If you use Bravo's ability, right? You're pretty much taking everything. You're providing that 11 attack power. They can only block with 1 card in hand. Uh, yeah, so you're pretty much holding your whole hand to play this 1 card next turn, and you better hope you have 1 Crippling Crush and 3 blues.
Yep.
Doesn't seem very
Um,
difficult. Maybe you put this one in
yeah,
Arsenal and hopefully you draw 3 blues?
it's kind of tough to do,
Yeah.
and I'll say currently it's part of the reason why Bravo at the moment is not doing so well. Historically, Bravo's been quite good. Just I think it was one of the strongest characters out of the initial set, Welcome to Wraith.
Mhm.
Um, but the 2 cost to give Dominate, like that is quite expensive. So it is kind of awkward, and sometimes paying an extra card to gain Dominate is not what you want to do when your opponent's trying to beat face, right?
Mm.
You could use that extra card to block 3 damage.
Yeah.
But yeah, historically Bravo's been pretty decent. The issue is the game's gotten a lot faster, and as we sort of mentioned, armor and defense reactions have gotten a lot better. So
Mm.
a card like Crippling Crush becomes a lot harder to justify playing when it's such a bad card if the crush effect does not activate, right?
Mm.
Like if you spend your entire hand to swing 11 dominate, you really want those 2 cards discarded.
Yeah. And the average fridge nowadays, unless you're playing Assassin or Ninja, is roughly 2, 4, 6, 8, maybe 7 or 8. So 1 card from hand plus 7, you're blocking,
You're
you're
blocking
blocking
10 and you
10.
don't even have to block 10, you just need to block 8
Mm.
because of the crush effect.
Yeah. Seems pretty. I see what you mean. And the other
Yeah.
one you wanted to see is the Bravo Specialization Showtime.
I think the other one would probably be Starstruck, actually. So
Oh,
Bravo has 3. Showtime's a good card, but it's sort of a setup aura, so it
gotcha.
helps you play those big, powerful attack actions.
Silly me, I didn't
Starstruck is
scroll down
another.
far
Yeah,
enough. All right, Star Trek. So what's this
yeah.
one do?
It's another 7 cost, this time yellow, swings for
Hmm.
10, 3 block. It has a unity effect of if you block with this and another card, you get a seismic surge token. And the crush effect is if it deals 4 more damage, then your opponent cannot, I think it's play or activate attacks with power equal to the amount of damage dealt. So, if it deals 4 damage, your opponent can't play attacks or play or activate attacks that are 4 or less, right? So, no Dawnblade swings for 3, no stealth cards for 3.
So the more damage
Um,
this gets, this more damage this does, the more restrictive your opponent's turn would be. So if you do
that's
all
right.
10 damage, the only attack actions you can play is anything higher than 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, greater.
So,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, Starstruck is a pretty good card. Like this is a very, very powerful on hit ability. But
Mm,
once again, the same issue of like you can just block it, and if your opponent is setting up to play 7 for 10, often enough you're sort of happy with that. Like if they're taking the damage required to play this,
mhm.
that can be a problem for their game plan. But
All
it's
right.
a pretty powerful card. We'll get into it a bit later. But Crippling Crush is currently restricted in Living Legend, and Starstruck has recently been taken off the restricted list in Living Legend.
Oh, I didn't even realize
Um,
that. Why would
yeah.
that be?
Uh, we'll talk about it in a bit. Oh, we're right now. Bravo star of the show. But before we get to him, let's
Okay.
let's talk about Oldhim because let's go chronological.
Okay. I was like,
Yeah,
let's stick with the Euro, right? Okay. So you want to go OG to next OG, Oldhim.
yeah, because chronologically, this was the next hero to come out. The Bravo star of the show came out after Oldhim, but Oldhim, Grandfather of Eternity, has LL'd, so we're not gonna spend too much time on him. But he was a very, very powerful hero. He was an elemental guardian hero. I love those elements. Essence of
Wow.
Earth and Ice, two of my favorites. And he has an ability once per turn defense reaction. He pays 3. If an Earth card is pitched this way, you prevent the next 2 damage. If an Ice card is pitched this way, your opponent puts a card from their hand on top of their deck.
Holy crap, that's strong, dude. I've never read this hero ability because he's LL, but
And guess what? It
dang.
gets even better because if you pitch a card that is both Earth and Ice, you get both effects.
And he has, wow.
Yeah. So Oldhim was a very, very powerful hero. He wasn't the best for a while just because there was another elemental guardian that was better.
There's another one.
Uh,
The one
yeah,
I
called
the
Bravo.
the one that I was showing earlier. He was even
Yeah.
better. What's this guy do now? I gotta see.
Well, let's go back to Oldhim for now
Okay,
because they're actually very different heroes. And so Oldhim, he was a very defensive hero.
you sure?
He was very good at stopping any sort of damages from occurring. Ice cards are very good at stopping your opponent from playing the game.
Yeah.
Cards like Gentle Lake Frigid are kind of insane. And he had access to a Frosty Hammer. Um, if you thought Titan's Fist was good, Winter's Wail is a real card. So yeah, this one is a one-handed weapon. Just uh, pitch a blue, you attack with it, and if the card you pitch was an ice card, it's got Frostbite on hit.
Oh
And a
man.
Frostbite makes your opponent pay an extra resource for the first thing they do.
This card was attached to him too because y'all would. I know I'm getting ahead. Y'all would love this freaking card.
Well, even if it wasn't attached to him, Winter's Wail got banned. It was so
Oh.
strong. Yeah.
Okay. Oh
Yeah, there were
man.
some very, very powerful cards. And yeah, so he was very good at just not taking any damage with his defense reaction hero ability. Cards like Rampart of the Ram's Head and Crown of Seeds. Yeah, Crown of Seeds was also insane. So
I know they
he
just
was
unbanned
really
that for
oh, they
Blitz,
just
but
banned it in LL too. Yeah, so he was very good at preventing damage. So the way to beat decks is to hit breakpoints, right? Cards block for 3. If you swing for 4, damage leaks.
mhm.
Not against Oldhim, it doesn't. He was so good at sort of preventing those sort of weird breakpoints that yeah, fatigue was pretty easy for him. So
Oh,
he was
that's
very
crazy.
insane.
Uh,
But yeah, not gonna talk too much about him. So he was a very good hero.
yeah.
And he was not as good as the next hero on the list.
All right, we're going to talk about him now, right? Bravo, star of the show. Also lovingly known by everyone who played him and everyone who hated him playing against him was Starvo, right? I actually don't know anything about this hero. I didn't know anything about Oldhim. And the reason why is because they're LL. It's not a format I typically play. I know we're covering this to kind of give the identity of the Guardian class and their iterations throughout the history of Flesh and Blood to the people that are watching this. And we're going to talk about more meta relevant Guardians, but we got to give kind of a throwback to the OGs, if you would. Uh,
Yeah.
it speaks to Evan's old man self. Let him amble on the journey on memory
Wouldn't
lane.
have it any other way. Thank you, Will. The old man and myself is very happy for the opportunity.
So
But
he's essence of earth, ice, and lightning. Okay, so already pretty good. So you can play any of the elemental talent that's earth, ice, or lightning. At the start of your turn, you may reveal an earth, an ice, and a lightning card from your hand. If you do, the next attack action card with a cost 3 or greater you play this turn gets +2 power, dominate, and go again. What the dude? How did they
yep,
print this thinking it was okay?
they thought it would be harder to get all 3 of the cards in hand. Now, I'll say this much. I think anybody and this is a testament to how broken this ability +2 dominate and go again for free is so insane. If you look at a Starvo deck, like if you go online and look at a deck
uh,
list, you will look at it and you will say, "This is the biggest pile of garbage I've ever seen in my life." And you will be right because Starvo runs a lot of cards like Earth 3 for 7s with no effects,
yeah.
like that block 2, right? The entire deck basically is full of 2 block elemental cards that basically do nothing.
Wow.
And yeah, you're required to do it so you can hit that triple, that earth, ice, and lightning. Because when you hit it, it is so absolutely broken. Like, guys, when this was in CC, okay, it was such a problem. They had to ban Autumn's Touch.
Isn't that the 3 cost
Will, would
7?
you put Autumn's Touch on screen? Oh no, no.
Uh,
Yeah, show us Autumn's touch.
yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm still so shocked. My finger stopped typing,
It
dude.
literally it got banned. Yes. So this card, Autumn's Touch. Would you like to read the flavor text on it?
It is not to be feared, Verdance. Autumn's but the hand that guides summer to sleep.
Wow, lovely, lovely words from Florian. But yes, Autumn's Touch is literally a 3 for 7 power, 3 block with no effect. And this card was so strong in Starvo that it got banned while he was legal because
Oh.
Starvo was so good. He was running 9 copies of this.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? The Blues have 3 5 attack, 3 defense. I mean, and with his ability, it is 7
Yep.
dominate Gogan. Like, it's really good. Okay, I know we're taking a
Yeah.
lot of time with this Oldhim and Starva, but I never
No,
realized how good
yeah.
these were.
This one was funny, but I think we talked about Guardian. One of their big issues is
Yeah,
they don't have Go Again. Starvo has Go Again, so
yeah, on a
Starvo
stick.
was yeah. He is the quickest hero to LL. He currently has the most LL points of any hero.
Hmm.
He was quite the menace. So we'll just leave it at that. And
Well, let me talk about the next hero. Let's go to more reasonable elemental guardians, if you would. The one that I'm personally liking, I have a list I'm pretty happy with. I might start playing him. We'll talk more a little after the podcast. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. V himself, Jarl. Whenever you play an ice card, create a frostbite token in an opponent's exposed head, chest, arms, or leg zone. Essence of ice and earth, and your standard hero stat block. So, whenever you play an ice card, create a frostbite token in an exposed zone. Seems like it's and that's of course the equipment zone, head, chest, arms, and legs. Seems like that's a lot more reasonable than the 2 heroes we looked at with Oldhim and Starvo, where you just pitch an ice card and you put a card from their hand on top of the deck. That's stupid sick. But this
yeah,
seems like a lot more reasonable, a lot more balanced as far as the Guardian hero gameplay goes. And he has 2 specializations. Well, really, we want to say 3. Crumble to Eternity, your all specialization. When this enters the arena, you may put a -1 defensive counter on an equipment. At the beginning of your next action phase, destroy this, then your next attack this turn gets dominant. So a little bit more setup, but it's Ice and Earth aura. It's a blue block 3 with 0 cost, right? And Unforgetting, Unforgiving. It's a red Guardian block. Your specialization again, it blocks for 4. When this defends, if attacking hero controls an equipment with a -1 counter, you may search your deck for a mangle, banish it, then shuffle. You can play it during your next action phase. And I know I brought Mingle on the screen earlier, right? It's one of those cards that had a crush effect, and we kind of just simply went through it. But this is a red, 4 cost, 8 power, 3 block crush. When this deals 4 or more damage to a hero, destroy target equipment they control with a -1 counter. A lot of synergies going on here. A lot of things happening. A lot more hoops to jump through than what I've seen with the previous heroes, but still seems like a lot of setup and disruption, which is more to the Guardian's current identity, right?
yeah. Oh, I hate to burst your bubble and ruin your surprise, but there are jokes about Jarl.
Uh huh. And what that
About
joke be?
the joke is that he doesn't have hero text. That the most relevant part of his hero is essence of earth and ice.
Mm-hmm. And why is that? What do you play with this relevant hero text? I'm just gonna bring it up on the screen because he's the only one that can use this right now. Oaken
Yeah.
Old. Do you want to read this one?
Oh, Oakenold is insane. It is a 3 for 7, 3 block. It has earth and ice fusion. And if Oakenold was fused, it gets +2 power, dominate. And if this hits a hero, they put 2 random cards from their hand to the bottom of the deck in any order. So it's like Crippling Crush, except it's an on hit opposed to a crush effect. It has dominate and it costs 3 instead of costing 7. So, yeah, this is absolutely bonkers. Now, granted, you do require an earth and ice fuse, which is very tough. That means you need 2 cards in hand, unless you find a card that is both an ice and an earth card,
Hmm.
which Crumble to Eternity is one of. Yeah, Pulse of Eisenloft is the other. So there are currently only 4 copies of Earth Ice cards in the game that you can run in total, and you can only run those 4 if you are playing Jarl.
What's the other two? I know Pulse, Crumble,
I meant
Eternity.
you run 3 pulses or 3 crumbles and 1 pulse.
Four
Yeah.
total. To I see. I see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was
But,
confused. So I was like, "Where's where they at? I need to fit this in my old deck because these are the only two I
well,
saw."
yeah, so Jarl, the the ability to destroy equipment and put frostbites into the equipment zones, often enough, it is not as powerful as you think. It's very tough to do that early in the game, and later in the game, people have plenty of blues, so often enough, the frostbites are less relevant. Yeah, that being said, the ability to run more Ice Earth cards, you get 3 more than Oldhim and Starvo,
Hmm.
makes Oakenold incredibly, incredibly powerful. So that is one of the best reasons to play Jarl. And to be honest, the Mangle package is pretty good too.
Yeah.
The ability to destroy uh, all this equipment, often
Hmm.
enough, like that can win you games, right?
Yeah. So really, what you're saying is, if you go with Jarl, since we're talking about Guardians, talking about this specific hero, don't expect his hero power to be relevant. If it happens, great. You're really playing the Mangle package and the Oaken Old package, is what I'm hearing. Is that about accurate? And you just his ability to have the essence in ice and earth is there, but you're really not playing your deck for his hero ability itself. It will happen
Yeah.
if it happens.
I think it's one of those things where it's like the ability is good against decks that you're already going to beat, right?
Gotcha.
I think
Uh,
Jarl into Syndra, for instance, is very Jarl favored.
mm,
And giving Frostbites to Syndra is super, super powerful because they're very red line.
hmm.
But even if you didn't do that, you were already favored into Syndra, right?
And I guess because of what you said earlier, where it only helps those kind of decks or games that you're already favored against. Some of the Unforgiving, even though it was an excellent card, very flavorful, not really relevant toward his game plan because it creates the Frostbite token in their exposed head, chest, arms, or leg zone. But it doesn't really matter toward the end of the game because you're going to have a higher blue count unless you're a red line deck. So that's where some it's really not going to get you that value overall because early on it's not going to help you because you're going to have their equipment to get your Mangle package online. Later on they're going to have so many blues it might not help you then. So it might not be relevant compared to the guaranteed
Like
pitch a
a big
blue,
thing for
hit a
this
four.
is it's an on hit, right?
Yeah.
Late in the game, if your opponent's at 3 life, they're blocking for 6 every turn. So this having an on hit doesn't matter at all, because they're
Gotcha.
required to block it for the damage. So
Mm.
why are you paying so much extra, like so many extra resources for an ability that doesn't matter?
That makes sense. And I don't think no one's ever really explained it that way before, which is why the other weapons are so favored. But shout out to Summit for being the first heavy weapon. I love this text on it where it's heavy. If this is the only card equipped to your weapon zone, it gets +2 power, bringing it from a 4 base power to a 6, meaning it's a one-handed weapon until it gets to be a two-handed weapon. And I love that they kind of incorporated it with this.
Yeah,
Not
it's
enough
great
to make it
flavor.
playable. Yeah, great flavor, not enough to make it playable. Okay, anything else you want to say about y'all?
Nah, I really like him. Very versatile hero. A lot of different ways to build him, but yeah,
Yeah,
he's super cool.
that was one of my texts with Jarl because he's the hero I did my most research on about good matchups, bad matchups, fun. I really dabble with him. And there's so many ways you could play. They're all from the Earth package to the Ice package to a control package. So I really like how there are so many different aspects with this particular guy. I guess we're going to talk about your personal favorite. I know when Bravo smiles, he looks charming, endearing, and definitely debutante, right? But when this next hero smiles, man,
Betsy?
what? Not Betsy,
Oh, the
Victor.
horse. Okay.
Yeah, the horse, of course.
Yeah,
Victor
I
Goldmain.
I love Victor. One of my favorite heroes.
Do you want to read his flavor text?
His flavor. So yeah, just baseline stats: 4 intellect, 40 health. So the first time each turn you create a gold token from an effect you control, draw a card,
Okay.
right? So very, very powerful. And the first time each turn you would lose or fail to win a clash, you can destroy a gold you control. And if you do, you put one of the two clashing cards to the bottom of the deck and you reclash.
Okay.
So essentially, we talked about clashing, and maybe Test of Strength is the perfect card to put back up.
Sure.
But
That's a good one.
you reveal a card from both players' deck, the top of both players' deck, and the highest power wins.
Hmm.
In terms of Test of Strength, the winner gets a gold token. And because of Victor's ability, if you win, you get the gold token, which will then allow you to draw a card.
Wow. So you're pretty
Um,
much replacing your block with a, you know, a block with another card. Which
yeah,
didn't you say Guardians didn't block very well, anyways?
yeah.
Seems
That I
pretty
mean,
good,
this is
dude.
part of it, right? This
Yeah.
is you're blocking like aggressively, which is kind of interesting, right?
Hmm.
Because you're allowed to be efficient. It's literally 0 for 7 essentially for
Hmm.
block, and you get an extra card. And on occasion you'll lose a clash. You'll say, "Oh darn!" But as Victor, you can just cheat. You can just sack a gold and re-clash. It's
Huh.
so cool.
And he has
Um,
other like I'm gonna just bring it up. I know because we're talking about Victor, he has a specialization as well. Is this good? Can you get this off most of the time? It's called Visit the Goldmane Estate. It's a one cost blue card that blocks for 3. A specialization for Victor, the horse. Create a gold token, then if you control 3 or more gold tokens, create that many might tokens. Go again.
yeah, this card is very, very strong.
Hmm.
It's very easy to do because if you play the Crown of Dominion, it's a generic headpiece that just you start the game with a gold.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then if you play his shield, for instance,
Oh,
I forget Regicide. That card is really good. It saw play in the
stop.
Mexico Nationals deck. Didn't you see?
Sorry, go ahead and read it. Read Aurum Aegis.
So Orm Aegis, it's literally a 2 block temper shield, except it also counts as a gold. So if you start with the Crown of Dominion, get you a gold. This counts as a gold. You have 2 gold on the field. So your visit the Goldmane Estates, make another gold, so you will automatically get the 3 mites the
Wow,
first
that's
time
really
you
good.
cast one.
Yeah, that's really strong already,
Yeah.
man. And once you get a block this for 2, you can sacrifice a shield to reclash if you need to.
Yeah, that's true. So it you can also do that, though you
Okay.
would tend to use your tokens to sack instead.
Okay.
Though I have definitely sacked the shield to reclash before, so it does
Now,
happen.
the next hero we're going to talk about, is my personal favorite, my big girl herself, and she's so good, but so underplayed. Betsy, skin in the game, thickness with 2 C's. Whenever an attack you control wagers, you may pay 2 resources. If you do, the attack gets +1 and overpower, meaning it can't be defended by more than one action card. It also has your standard hero block of 4 intellect, 40 health.
Yeah.
She has 2 specializations that are really actually good, right? I mean, I don't think she's that far off from seeing actual relevant play. Her helmet's even good. I guess we could talk about them real quick. The Bet Big Betsy specialization is a 4 cost, 8 power, 3 block, red. When this attacks a hero, you may wager a gold, might, and vigor token with them. So, and that means any of the wager mechanics that happen when this chain link resolves, if this hits, you create a gold, might, and vigor token. Otherwise, they create one. So
Yep.
it has a relevant on hit, right? If they fully block it out, and we know the equipment we talked about this ad nauseum, the one thing about the Guardians is there's stronger equipment packages out there, and it's very easy to block an overpower out, more so than dominate. But still a really good high power attack for low cost, right?
It's true.
And then drinking on the table is the more newest one. Same thing, 4 cost, 8 power, 3 block. Betsy specialization. When this attacks a hero, you may wager with them. The winner draws a card, and the other hero discards a card. Oof, seems
I mean,
pretty
this one's
good.
good. Yeah,
Yeah,
like if you have no cards in hand, you can't discard even if you lose.
yeah,
Yeah, these 2 cards are strong. They're on hits opposed to crush abilities, so your opponent has to block them all out, like completely.
yeah.
Overpower can make it hard to block out, not impossible. And then Good
And
Time Chapeau here, super powerful.
Why don't you
Um,
go ahead and give that a little read?
yeah, it's a 2 block temper helmet, Betsy's specialization. And as an action, you can destroy gold, and the next attack this turn gets you may wager a might and vigor token. So essentially, you can continuously use this as long as you have gold to make any attack wager. And that's really strong. You can even make like weapon attacks wager. So
Wow.
you can give your weapons overpower and +1 if you use the good time chapeau. So Betsy's pretty strong, might not be the right word, but
She's interesting. I think we can all agree with that. There's reasons why she
she's
doesn't see play,
yeah. She's
and
interesting. She's really cool. I really
yep,
hope they support her more.
and
She's
a
no
lot.
Olympia, so
Dude, that hurts my heart. That
I
really,
know.
I felt a freaking ping in my stomach. Yeah, I'm sorry to the clients. I
Am
love
I
them.
wrong?
You're
Somebody
not.
get Chris to watch this
Oh
video.
my
Am I wrong,
gosh.
Chris?
No, he feels the pain too. He wants Olympia to be good as well as I do. I mean, that I just, anyways. Betsy, everyone thinks that she's this one hero weapon away from being playable. I do think she runs into the same issues that Bravo kind of had. Even though Bravo is dominate, she's overpowered. It's still the high cost everything. Now she's a little bit better using her specializations because the 6 cost is a lot better than
Yeah.
Bravo's dominate. And at least with Betsy, she gives her attacks +1, which that 8 now becomes a 9. And there's other Guardian techs that 8 becomes a 9, that 9 becomes a 10. It's so much stronger even with the overpower word, right? Because you're still forcing cards out them. And sometimes what are they going to do when Vigor pops or anything else breaks, the Might pops, and they can't play nothing because they have no cards because they blocked everything out. So
Oh, that's true.
it's not really a downside, but you really got to be careful with that too. So,
Yeah.
all
Betsy
right.
is not good. She has potential though. I
Yeah.
think currently the she is sort of like she's been run traditionally as like a controlling to mid-range deck.
Yeah.
Victor, on the other hand, is kind of like mid-range to aggro. He's the only hero, Guardian hero, that's actually able to be aggressive outside of maybe Starvo, just because his block cards are so efficient. So he can keep a big hand to sort of do those big, powerful crush cards that we mentioned,
Yeah.
while still like staying on the defensive. But
And I do think that between like Betsy's role versus Victor's role and even Jarl, I think she
yeah,
just kind of falls to the wayside because you got like, two Guardians that kind of have two different game plans, but their game plans are so more flavorful, and I think
the
Betsy just kind of falls to the wayside.
the historical issue with Betsy, because I
Okay.
have tried her before, is Good Time Chapeau, the headpiece, is very strong, but you
Mm-hmm.
need gold to play it.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to get gold tokens is to
Is play
run Test of
Necromancer.
Strength.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, but the best way for her to do it is to play cards like Test of Strength.
Uh-huh.
Except if you're playing Test of Strength, why are you not playing Victor? Because, if you get a gold off Test of Strength and you're not playing Victor, you don't get to draw a card. And then
Yeah.
you can question to yourself, why am I not playing Victor?
So, and all the easy gold generators are really either pirate class oriented or not really playable in
Yeah.
Betsy because it doesn't go to her game plan. So she doesn't really have a good way of getting gold online. Like even Victor's Crown of Dominion that you normally play, you really need gold time chapeau. So,
Yeah.
that's one of those things. So,
No, no, yeah. It makes sense. As I sort of mentioned, they're both guardians, so
mm,
any sort of gold generation that Betsy has access to, so does Victor.
yeah,
And Victor gets to draw a card. And that is way more powerful than getting to activate Good Time Chapeau. So,
yeah, I
yeah,
kind of see
Betsy
that.
needs some help, though she has some powerful specializations. So I
Yeah.
could see her one of these days becoming pretty good.
Well, she's a lot farther along than Olympia is, I'll tell you that. But
Yes.
moving on to the next one. Now, most people would say, well, we covered all the heroes and all the current Guardians. We're not going to talk about the Blitz Guardians like Terra, even though the First Strike deck is out there, and some of his cards do see play in your all because, Earth. But let's talk about a new one that's coming out, and we're going to do a full set review for the Mastery Pack, the Guardian Mastery Pack. But let's talk about Valda, Seismic Impact. Whenever an opponent draws one or more cards during an action phase, create that many seismic surge tokens. At the start of your turn, if you control 3 or more seismic surge tokens, cards you own with Crush get dominate this turn. I'm liking this hero, man. Like, not only visually appealing, but like, let's ignore that first. Evan's
I
like
don't know,
laughing.
man. I'm a Betsy man, you know? That's a real waifu.
Yeah, dude. Hey, look, if you like the cushion, I get it, brother. Like, look, when you lay your head upon her, belly or bosom,
I'm
I
gonna
get it. We're not going to edit this out. I'm speaking
let's
from the heart.
continue.
Beautiful is beautiful, right?
We're a Trevor and Ning
Look, see, this is what happens.
to stop
Like,
being
you guys need to outnumber me, or else I'll go off on all these tangents. That it's hard to bring me back on focus, guys.
Trevor
I'm
and Ning
sorry.
come back. I'm scared. Anyway,
So, I think you can ignore pretty much the first half of this hero text and really focus on the second part of it, where if you control 3 or more seismic surge tokens, especially with some of the Guardian Mastery Pack cards we'll talk about later, like when that set review, like, yeah, if the first part happens, fine. But that second part, I think you got enough play with the cards coming out that she might see some play. What do you think?
I mean, Valda has ways to trigger the first ability. You
Sure.
know, her specialization, for instance,
Let's bring that up.
literally, yeah, put them in their place. It literally, crush effect. It's a 6 for 10, 3
Mm-hmm.
block crush effect. 4 more damage is dealt to an opponent. They discard their hand and draw that many cards. So this will trigger Valda's
Mm-hmm.
ability, right? So if they block, if this has dominate, right? You gave it dominate from the 3 seismics, then your opponent blocks with 1 card from hand. They discard 3, they draw 3 more. You get to make 3 seismics, and on your next turn, your crush attacks cost 3 less and also have dominate. So
Yeah.
that's pretty insane.
And the cost curve is a lot more viable at really a 2 blue pitch for a 10 power card with all these other relevant hits. Is there any other cards that makes you discard and draw cards that will fit with her? I'm not sure if anything on the top of my head that would fit into her deck.
I mean, there are some cards. Like, I think this rounds on me is a big one. Historically, people have played in Valda since her Blitz hero has existed in the
Yeah.
past before. Uh,
And it seems really good, man. Each hero draws a card. It's a 1 cost generic action, 3 block. Each hero draws a card until the start of your next turn. Attacks that target you have -1. A lot of upsides, right?
yeah, but overall, yeah, Valda, she's a cool hero. We talked about how Bravo has some issues because paying 2 resources
Mm-hmm.
for dominate is like not the best. Like sacrificing an entire card for dominate is really tough. But if you just get it for free because you have 3 seismics, that's pretty powerful. So I could see Volda being good, though. It's
Yeah.
tough to say for sure, given that we don't have the entire set of Guardian Mastery Pack.
Yeah. And I know, Volda might be the best thing that came out of it based off what you were feeling earlier. But we'll find out when the rest of the spoilers come out. So that's really our talk about the heroes, and we're already going to like way into the time frame, and we thought this would be a short video. Of course, it never is. So we can wrap this up real quick before we get into some of the final thoughts. Um, Evan, I'm going to refrain from answering from this, but what do you think separates a good Guardian player from a great Guardian player?
That's a good question. I think it really is. I've sort of talked about the way Guardians should play, and that is Guardians are a very defensive hero, but defending on average is just less efficient than attacking, right? So Guardians have a couple of pretty major power cards. So
Mm,
finding the right times to sort of use your armor to block in order to sort of wrench tempo back from your opponent and
mm,
play these power cards is sort of important, right?
mm,
So it's sort of the blockout game. You block out, you swing hammer on occasion if you can, and then like if you can, as Jarl, Oakenhold, if you can Spinal Crush, if you can crush the
mm,
weak, like set like those sort of big turns, maybe set up a CNC pummel. Uh, these are good ways to sort of take the tempo back. And once you've got the tempo in your corner, even if you draw an all blue hand, like you're going to be sending big damage. And yeah, so being able to sort of identify how to sort of win the game
Mhm.
and how to sort of like when you should be like pushing for damage versus like staying back to block is kind of the Guardian MO.
I got you. That's really good. That makes good sense. So if you like, I guess if you really learn your matchups well, you learn other people's decks, but really you knowing when to selectively strike. So really using your life as that resource. I've always said that before, but really, not using it loosely like I tend to do. You really have to be focused and know when to strike at the most important time to really hurt your opponent. And from what it sounds like, that's what you're saying really separates a good Guardian player from a great one is that timing. That one time that will disrupt them and mess up their whole game.
Yeah.
Okay. So going to myth, and I'm going to only stick with one myth bust. All right. See if you agree or disagree. Guardians are always defensive. You just block and wait.
I mean, no. As I sort of mentioned, Victor can be fairly aggressive.
Hmm.
And you do kind of block and wait. Like, legitimately, there are fatigue decks in the past that just block out Swing Hammer.
Hmm.
Though, no, for the most part, Guardians are sort of like you sort of look for an opportunity,
Hmm.
right? Because for the most part, blocking is a losing game,
Yeah.
right? Like, cards are more efficient on attack than block. So,
So you are going to block a lot, right? In a Guardian because that's
yep.
what they do best. They're defensively natured. But it's not purely, just a block and waiting game. You have to really kind of push through damage and ink through damage. I like that. Okay. So what's your guardian you would recommend people to start with?
Oh man, I think Guardian. Do be warned, Guardian is not in a great place right now.
Does that mean the cards are
um,
still expensive? They can pick it up on the cheap, or just like it's still going? You're going to still spend a lot of
well,
money.
in the meta, Guardian is not doing so hot
Okay.
because Gravy Bones exists, and they are very good at beating up Guardians.
Yeah.
But it is do be warned, it is also a bit pricey. They run generic helmets, for instance, that are always very expensive. They run Tunic, always expensive.
Yeah.
CNC is always expensive, and that's such a key card. But if you want to run Guardian, it kind of depends on what you're looking for. Like, if you want more like a tempo oriented, aggressive Guardian, Victor is the way to go. He's the
Hmm.
most aggressive, and he's one of my favorites. Clashing is just a lot of fun. Though, if you want to run more controlling, if you want to run more of those sort of negative on hits, force your opponent to play suboptimally, I think Jarl is a good choice right now. Though, do be warned, he is even more expensive than what I'm currently saying because he runs a lot of powerful earth cards as
Yeah.
well, and those can be a bit pricey.
And the armory deck does help with a lot of the foundational stuff, but it's still a pricier armory deck than most of the other armory decks out there, just because the MSRP, the standard pricing for it, was set higher, right? Because you had a lot more legendary cards in his set, which you probably
Yeah,
wouldn't use anyways. I'm not saying it's a bad deck. I bought one because I love those kind of products. But yes, you're also going to need some of the earth cards, and these earth cards are your plow hunters and your
Felling of the
Felling
Crown.
of the Crown, which if you didn't get them early, Rosetta's a set that's been a year past now. It's going to be harder to get these cards, and they did not go down in price, right? Because they're still seeing play. People are still speculating that Terra might get a glow up one day and be an adult hero. So you're not going to see these cards go away. As long as Verdance is out there and Jarl's out there and Florian's out there, these are the cards that are going to be relevant for a while. So yeah, it's going to be an expensive hero to play. If you want to go cheap, but not quite as effective, I got to be honest, man. Bravo might not be a bad spot because a lot of his specializations are pennies on the dollar, and you could get away with just running those instead of the more expensive cards and work your way up to the more expensive cards. Steel Braid Buckler is still a great shield if you don't have the other ones. Uh, these blue cards, a lot of them are commons, and you got the new Mastery Pack coming out, so that's going to fill some things up. Valda might be cheaper, it just depends. But yeah, I would agree with Evan's pick. I think Jarl and Victor. Jarl, but Casey looks so badass too. You know what I mean?
He's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. So I agree with that. Not much to close here. I'll keep it short and simple. Do you got something else you want to do, Evan? Another thing you want to comment on?
No, I love Guardian. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite classes. So
Yeah.
hopefully There's some insight, and you guys enjoy playing them.
And I love how relevant that this cast came out. Now, for those that are going into our deep dive series, we covered Assassin and Brute, and now it's Guardian. If you haven't realized the order in which we're going, we said bump it, let's do alphabetical, right? And this just so happened to come out right before the Guardian Mastery Pack, which look forward to our set review. We had a lot of positive remarks on the last one, so thank you for that. With that being said, I'll keep it short and sweet with the Guardian thing. Methodical, strategic gameplay. You prefer disruption and punishing tempo. Swings? Let's rewind that. You can just punish people for at the right time and mess up their day. What's not fun about that? You know, have one card, swing hammer. Can't get more simple than that. My Discord is midnight underscore WI11. And until next time, remember, every turn is a decision, every decision is a story, and don't forget your damn Tunic Counter. Peace. Too much for the finger guns? Papa!
No, I was trying to put a thumbs up, but I
Yeah, off screen. All right.